Hey guys, this is DFD, aka Dark Frozen Depths, back with another, well, it's already under maintenance, so by the time you're watching this event, it might have started. But anyways, this is a talk about the upcoming event, which is going to be a versus Adrammelech. Now, I gotta point this out because you might see this if you look at this raid. I mean, if you look at this thread, if you're on Harem Battle Club. So, this is getting a little bit off topic, but I really gotta point this out because crap like this gets rather ridiculous. But on a sad thing, I suggested that the limbs should be placed as sub-slots if you plan on using them. That's all fine and good. But here's the thing, it's suddenly blown up to some serious massive thing with a lot of players calling the limbs trash, which honestly, they're not trash, but they're not good either. But what I am saying is this. Use them for the time being until you get something better. For some weird reason, nobody's understanding that, even when I clearly said it 3 times. I usually don't try to do any rants or raves, but this is getting rather ridiculous, because this is another one of those things where it kind of makes me regret being on Harem Battle Club a little bit. Because it's another one of those elitist type things where I just don't understand it. It's like, why? What I'm really trying to get at is the fact that if you have better, by all means use better. It's stupid not to use what's better. But until then, you have to use what you've got. That's how this game works. That's all I'm really want to say. I'm not going to try and go into too many details. So what that means is, if you do happen to have the looms on standby, you might want their buffs in order to beef up your teams a little bit. So they're better off as sub-slots. You really should not be using them as main slots because it's easy to get some access to better stuff. However, they are good for a while for sub-slots. Keywords, for a while. Now, their maximum stats can get beaten out by a few SR Eidolons, in fact. But the buff is what outweighs that because of the fact that the buff is 15% more elemental attack, and that is very valuable. Elemental attack is extremely valuable in this game. So I don't see how come a difference of like maybe a 500 attack from one Eidolon, not a whole massive group, one Eidolon, is causing that much of an uproar. Just to end it real quick is a simple fact that I also don't like the type of elitist attitudes where it says, oh, I can do auto battle or you're spreading misinformation or something like that. Here's the thing. People make mistakes. So condemning somebody for getting something wrong is just ludicrous. I even do it with my videos. If I get something wrong, I'll post it in the comments. But at the same time, the whole thing about being able to clear stuff with auto battle, if you can, by all means, do it. If you want to, by all means, do it. But it shouldn't be something that's valued more than anything else. Because let's face it, first off, the AI on auto battle sucks. Unless you're just doing straight up normal attacks. It is proven that you should be doing it manually so you get the best out of your abilities and whatnot. But auto battle is just for people who's not going to be at the computer, or for some reason just don't want to play the game. But anyways, enough of that sad crap, because this took like 4 minutes. Let's get on to the real reason why you're here for this video. Now, this Adrammelech event, there is a decent amount of good stuff, but there's a little bit of tricks to this. Remember the last event where we had Ilyanka, where she had some special little trigger effect that happened at the start of the fight and at 50% HP. This one's just going to last throughout the entire fight, but there's a key condition, and it's right here. You have to make sure that you never put drowned on her. Ever. So Mordred users are already out. If you stick drowned on her, she's going to sip and clear it, and then on top of that, increase her resistance to debuffs. That's very bad. Unless you have somebody that can remove that crap or whatever, you don't want to use Drown. And there's a few water Kamihime that can do that. So, that's the thing. Because this event is fire-based. So you need to use water characters for the elemental advantage. Now, I also have to clear this up because of other sad crap, but elemental advantage pretty much gives you more damage and you take less damage in the case of most setups. I think light and dark don't take less damage. I think they just take normal damage regardless. I'm not fully sure on that. But elemental advantage definitely helps you deal more damage. You should be using elemental advantage unless your team is really horrible. This is a whole case why you want to have at least all elements covered at some point. When you're just starting off, you might want to build up. And this is a good build up for fire characters, because Adrammelech herself is a very good Eidolon. At least event-wise. But anyways, she has some little trigger thing that's related to drowning status, so don't put drown on her. Now, when it comes to her overdrives, she can apply debuffs. And then on top of that, one of them removes buffs. So you gotta be careful with those. Now, the one that's less dangerous would probably be the raging one, depending on the situation. Because, of course, it's going to deal more damage. But you have to be careful with that one because of the fact that if you have something like like an attack up buff or some healing regen or something, is probably going to get removed off of that, so be careful. As for the normal overdrive, it applies Scorched. And then she also buffs herself with continuous attack rate up. Honestly, multiple attack rate up isn't too bad to deal with, but it can get a little bit annoying, so you might want to have some way of removing it if possible. It all depends on which one you really think is the worst one to deal with. They're both pretty bad if you ask me. But here's another really big trigger thing that you have to pay attention to. When her HP drops below 50%, she will nuke everybody that comes with an instant death debuff. So be very, very careful. You need some sort of way to clear it out, or you need some way to just knock her from 50% all the way down. That's a very dangerous one. And to make matters worse is the simple fact that Ragnarok, she's got a lot of HP, which is 12 million, so you will probably need some healers that can remove stuff. And of course, I've said it so many times before, but Soul, definitely one of the best ones, especially considering the fact that wait until you see what you gotta do for the missions. But Expert, she has 4 million HP. You might be able to knock her from 50% with a strong enough team, but I wouldn't exactly count on it. That's only for the players that's grinding out so much weapon skill levels that they have a high amount of attack power. So the average player is probably not going to do that. And that's the thing I try to look at when I make this type of stuff. It's like, okay, what would the average player probably have? It's quite a few that's been here for a while, and then there's a few that's just newer. So chances are you're not knocking her from 50%. So you may want some form of removing that instant death debuff, because it's a very, very dangerous one. Now, I've heard that regen sometimes counters that, but I'm not fully sure. I think you do take your damage before you get the regen effect. I'm not fully sure, and I have seen it work before, but I wouldn't rely on it. Bring some sort of cleanse. Vivian is a very good healer for this, if you don't have anybody that can do it on their own. Now, of course they recommend Arthur with Provisional Force if you're really strong. Mordred, if you're going to use her, try not to use her Outrage, because it causes drowning, and that's going to be a very big problem. And they even say Maiden's Prayer is the EX ability to have, so again, that's from Vivian, I do believe. You might even want Chaos Magic. Heck, I would go so far as to probably bring in Vivian with Cassiopeia's ability if you really don't need the healing. Or if you do need the healing, then bring in Cassiopeia with Vivian's EX ability. That's one thing that's not listed here, but it's not a bad idea. But water teams do have a lot of good healers, so you probably can cleanse a few times. And then on top of that too, I do believe one of them was from the raid gacha too. But and not the raid event gacha, the one that gives you past Kamihime. But Aphrodite is a very good one to have. Cthulhu is a good one to have. Nikke's good. Ryu O. Atalanta, she's free and she's definitely good to have. Gabrielle can be good. They suggest Cupid. They, of course, suggest Soul. Saraswati, for some reason. I don't know why. I'm not sure why she's recommended, but I can look into that a little bit further because she mainly single targets buffs herself and then somebody else. Unless you sit and make her target herself, in which case that's a good idea for the healing, so she gets 50 bursts and 4,000 HP back. Kushinada is another one, and then Otohime. And some of them are rarity. I know Kushinada and Otohime's rare level, so you'll probably have them. Now, here's the deal with this stuff. This raid weapon is another one that introduces rush. It's said that it's not really good to have that if you got characters that can boost their triple rate, because double can overwrite that. But the thing is, again, weapons later down the line may or may not have second abilities. And as far as I know, the Union raid ones definitely do. The Advent ones didn't, for the most part. I'm not sure. Or was it the raid ones? See, this is where I'm not fully sure about that, because I've seen it before, but I didn't really read full details, so excuse me on that one. But that bow, you got to be careful if you use it. That's one thing I know for sure. I have Daki, for instance, for my fire team. That can help the double rate, but it will also worsen the triple rate. So that's where I have to be careful. It even affects Union event buffs too, they say. But Adrammelech herself, she's a straight up raw attack power. 45% if you get all copies of her, so do it. That's a given. Just do it. And then I think she also comes up with some buff that increases double attack. But I'm not sure. It says duplex, but for some reason it's just not clear. I think that probably would mean double. Naturally, try to get the assault weapons too, which is the hammer, the SR hammer. And for some strange reason, they've been giving us a Kamihime this week against the element we're fighting, so you expect to win Kamihime. I'm not exactly sure how good she is, but we'll check that out at some point. And then naturally you get more grails to upgrade your weapons. That's pretty good. But here's the reason why I said you might want to watch for your light characters. You have to clear Ragnarok on your own, as in solo it, with a light team. I've been showing off a previous few light videos. I think I'm more than prepared for it. Now, in the case of the R level challenge, the R Kamihime, you have to use any setup of R Kamihime period point blank. The soul doesn't matter, but you have to solo expert with them. That's the other challenge. This one might be a little bit tricky, but they did suggest Kushinada and Otohime, and they're both water R characters, so you probably want to use them. When it comes to R teams, you definitely want to try to get the elemental advantage, because that your damage output is low enough as it is. It doesn't need to be lower by going off element. Because R characters really do have that much of a difference between the SR and even SSR characters. It's that huge. Especially considering that it's at least a 20 level max difference. So you can have level 50 R characters, but your SR and SSR can go 70 or possibly even higher if they're SSR. So be very careful of all that. Anyways, that's a quick little overview from that thread, which took a little bit longer than I wanted to actually. But here's a more close-up view of everything on here too. Naturally, you get magic jewels from clearing story things and starting each raid. You're going to want to start them all anyways if you want to do the extra missions. Thankfully, they're only just for more tickets, so if you're really just here to get the Eidolon, you don't really need it. Now, if you're trying to get multiple copies of the Eidolon for some weird reason, then do it. But that's the whole thing with that one. But I can't really see anybody trying to farm the gacha for multiple copies of stuff, because the SSR weapon is very, very debatable. And the SSR Eidolon, you only really need her as a main. But anyways, and that's why I'm going to go double check this. We'll come back and double check that weapon later. Now, this is the info that they don't give. Standard difficulty, 750,000 HP to deal with. That's not too bad, but it's like, it seems kind of high for standard if you ask me. Normally they're like 500,000 or maybe 600,000. But it still should be no problem if you're like sufficiently leveled. If you can clear expert or even ultimate on the advent events, then you can definitely handle standard. Just do not use a win team, regardless of which one you try to do, unless you're like massively overpowered. But that's the whole thing. You really have to be careful about that drown, and you really have to be careful about the 50% thing, because one wrong move, you can see a lot of your Kamihime getting wiped. So careful. This is going to be one of the more dangerous raid events we ever see, from what I've heard. Now, of course, the usual stuff, you get nothing but raid tickets from the participation points. You can get grimoires, you can get pieces of Dragonic Eye Shards, you can get a lot of gacha tickets. Be sure to grind those out if you're a free player. Or even if you're not a free player, just grind them out. It's extra chances at the gacha, why not? You can get up to 3,000 magic jewels per event now, so I'm not even going to mention how much you can get for them. Since the last advent event, that's been a thing. So you can get at least 3,000 per event. Especially if the rankings on the Union ones. But that's the whole thing with this. I'm going to double check and see what these, because I don't know if that bow's got, yeah, it doesn't have a final break, so unfortunately you may or may not want to skip this one. It's got a lot of attack power, I can give it that much, but you're probably going to want to skip this one. I know I'm not going to be too into that. I might just use this materials for skill leveling the other stuff, because when you get it high enough, SSRs may not be guaranteed. So I'm probably going to throw that as fodder. Now, this rapier is what I want to see, because this is going to be your free Kamihime for this event. And they're saying she's skippable, but I'm not sure. Well, actually, no. That's not even listed right there. They'll probably have her listed somewhere up here. Because there's your weapons. There's your... I guess she's called Principality? She doesn't look too bad design-wise. But her skills is what matters. And I can already see. This is going to be kind of weird. Because it's dependent on the situation. If you need another tank, she can put up a barrier that helps with that. But it's got a long cooldown. Ability damage, there's not too many wind characters that can nuke, so that might not be helpful. And then she's got an AoE wind nuke, which honestly doesn't do too much damage either. So you're going to get one of her, but you may or may not use her. She does help tank a little bit with that that barrier, but it's not much stronger than Tiamat. If you have Tiamat, that's a barrier of 750. This one is a barrier of 800. It'll last 5 turns, but chances are it's going to get eaten through before anything else, so that's unfortunate about her. I'm probably going to end up, like, even if I didn't have too much of a win selection, I still probably would use her as just nothing but magic jewel fodder. And plus, I like collecting scenes. Anyways, that's all I got for this video, guys. Of course, I'm going to try and do recordings of both the challenges. I got a good feeling I can do the light one, because my light team's very, very prepared for that. I mean, I have ways to manipulate the overdrive gauge. I have ways to I can avoid that drowned altogether. I have ways to remove buffs and remove debuffs off of me. So it's not going to be too hard for my light team, hopefully. I've been trying to feed them more skill levels recently too. I've been leveling up a few weapons so far. But anyways, again, that's all I got for this. More coming soon. And again, I have to say this again at the very end of the video. please watch what you say and do when it comes to dealing with other people, because not everybody wants to put up with that crap. Because that's the whole thing. Especially when it comes to helping other people, because that's the whole thing I try to do with this thing. It's like I try to watch what I say when I try to help others. Because that thread really did go way out of hand. And it's technically derailed. But anyways, again, just try to be nice at the very least. Some things may come across as a wrong tone or whatever, but no one wants to deal with that. Especially if you have some sort of elitist attitude. Because that's something that's unnecessary as well. Sure, you can clear content very, very easily. I can do that too in some cases, but at the end of the day, what does it matter for somebody else but showing them, okay, maybe we can use some of this stuff? Because, again, that's how this game works. You don't have the same exact stuff between two people unless you're just lucky. I can more or less replicate somebody else's white team as well, but their grid's probably different than mine. So, that's all I gotta say. You have to keep in mind, not every player is an elite player. Not every player is a new player either. We're all different. You have to come up with different strategies. And speaking of which, I'm starting to get a little bit more insight on the accessories I wanted to look at too. So, that said, I'm probably going to end up doing the accessory guide video pretty soon, because when it comes to accessories, it's amazing what you can actually pull off of them if you're lucky. But that's the whole thing with that. One of them really does have some very valuable use for farming as well, which is the item drop rate, so who knows. That combined with snatch really should make a difference, but we don't know for sure. We don't even have exact snatch values. Nobody does. But anyways, expect the accessory video some point. I'm not guaranteeing a set time for it because I'm still working on my own game as well. But that's all I got for this video, guys. Take care.